Hey everyone, it's Helen here. Today's painting is black and white with a hint of pink. I'll go through all the brushes I'm using throughout the video and I'll put a list of materials and brushes in the description below. The first thing I'm going to do is put a circle of white paint in the upper middle part of the canvas. Then I've mixed some black and white together to get a really nice grey colour, and I'm going to put that all the way around the edges, just on the top half of the canvas. You can use any brush for this. I'm using a flat brush, but you could use a filbert brush or something similar. Just spread that paint around. Make it a little darker in each corner. You can add a little white to the grey if you need to. And just work it into the canvas as best you can. Then I've got a dry mop brush. You can also use any fluffy makeup brush or anything similar like that. And I'm just dabbing the brush on and swirling it around to blend the white into the grey. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can look a little bit misty or cloudy. Just work it into the canvas and soften it up until you get something that you're happy with. Then with a clean mop brush, I've got my pink and I'm adding a little bit of white to mine to lighten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to start dabbing that onto the white area and slowly working it into the white, spreading outwards a little to the grey. I'm using a light pink, but you could use any pink that you have. You could add a little bit of white to it to make it lighter, or you could even use another colour if you prefer. Now I've got my white and I'm going to do something similar to the bottom, but not quite. So we'll put the lighter area at the bottom with the white again. I've got my grey, which is my black and my white. I'm going to put that around the edges, making it a little bit darker on the two bottom corners. Just work that into the canvas until it reaches the white. And then I'm blending it together with my mop brush again. But because this is going to be water on the bottom section of the canvas, I'm also going to do like a horizontal motion with the brush just to start getting that water effect. So it's still softly blended, but then a few lines from left to right just to get that flat water feeling. We'll put a little bit of pink in the middle again, just soften all of that out. Now I've got my white and I'm adding just a tiny amount of black to it, not much at all, so it's a very, very light grey colour. And we can start putting in some snowy hills in the background. Just bring it down slightly diagonally on the right. And we'll put another one in on the left. Just wiggle the brush about a little bit as you're coming down, so it's slightly uneven. Just sweep that down. Then I've made a light grey colour again, and I'm using a filbert brush to start putting in some trees in the distance. I'm using just the tip of the brush and the side of the brush to get that pine tree effect. Doesn't need to be too detailed, because these are all going to be at the back. Just dab it on using the side of the brush. We'll put another one over the other side. You could use a fan brush if you prefer, or a small round brush, whatever you're comfortable with. And now that the pink has dried, I've got some white on the tip of my brush. The brush is dry, and I'm just going to dry brush a little bit of white at the back so we can get that light peeking through the mist. All of the trees are dry, and to just make them look like they're slightly misty again, I'm going to put a very thin coat of white paint over the top. It's been diluted with a little bit of medium, but you could also use water. And when that's dry, I'm going to make a slightly darker grey colour, so I've added a little more black this time. And we'll start putting some larger trees in a little bit closer to us. So it's a similar technique, just using the tip and the side of my filbert brush to get the branches coming out on either side. A few shadows at the bottom. And we'll put a slightly bigger one on this side. And there we go. Now I'm going to mark out where the water's going to be and the snowy land at either side is going to meet it. So we'll just put a few wavy lines in to give us an idea, and then we can start blocking out the snow on either side of the water. So I've got my white paint, I've still got my filbert brush because it's already in use. If you leave a few grey patches underneath, that's okay, because that looks like it's the shadow and the land underneath. Just block it all in white. Getting a little bit softer and fainter as it goes into the distance. Now we can start adding some big trees right at the foreground. So I'm using black paint. I've marked out where the trunk's going to be at the bottom, and then with a medium round brush I'm just sweeping down the tree trunks. For the finer, more delicate branches, I've switched to a liner brush. It's really just a few little wavy lines, slowly building up the tree branches. Keep your paint nice and thin, and only put a little bit on the brush at a time. And then I think on this side I'm going to put a really nice big solid pine tree. So we'll put that big tree trunk all the way down. And you really have an option of what kind of brush you'd like to use for your pine tree. You could stick to your medium round brush, a fan brush, or a filbert brush. I'll show you what each one does and the different effects that you can get. You can see for the fan brush you get more of a little delicate, spiky sort of effect. And I'm using just the tip of the brush and the side and the corner, sweeping it from side to side to get those delicate branches. For the filbert brush, I'm using the side of the brush and the tip of the brush. And for me, I think that gives it a more solid effect. We'll put a few little bits of grass peeking through with my fan brush, just around the edge of the water. Some reflections. And then I'm coming in with white paint again and putting in some nice white highlights on the top. While we've got our fan brush, we can put some snow on the pine tree. Just a few little dabs. And we can start adding some reflections in the water. I've got my liner brush again. I'm just sort of twirling and sweeping the brush downwards to get those blurry reflections of the trees. I've got my fan brush and we'll start putting in a slightly more solid reflection for the pine tree. Just working it from side to side. We'll add a little bit of a lighter area in the water, just where that light's reflecting downwards. And we're finished. Thanks for painting with me today. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really love it if you hit the like button for me, as it really does help.